I'm Indra, and I'd like to welcome you to the Messy Middle Matters, where my friends and I explore all the twists, turns, and challenges that arise in the messy middle of work. Hey, everyone. I hope you're all having a good day. Today, I'm being joined by Amanda, and we're going to be talking about a topic that gets batted around from time to time, personal brand. It can be triggering. I know for me, it can sometimes set off my fight, flight, freeze, fawn reaction, like depending on what's going on and who's around me. I still remember the first time that it came up for me was when I was at TD Ameritrade. I was at senior manager level. I was relatively new to the company. I knew a lot of the people there, but still, it was just like, what am I supposed to define? How am I supposed to define it? Like, I work in a corporation. Like, why do, how does this fit? So, today we're going to be digging into that and talking about it. And so hey, Amanda, how are you today? I know you've been thinking about this one a lot lately.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Indra?
I'm doing well. So,
Yeah,
um,
I love this topic
yeah.
because, like you mentioned, it has been top of mind for me.
Hmm.
And, I never really sat down to think about it until somewhat recently because I feel like personal branding is one of those topics that has always felt like for influencers or,
Yeah.
for all the people on social and not for regular old professionals like us, like unless you're in marketing or something, right? Like when do you really when are you forced to think about your personal brand?
When a corporation puts you in an exercise. But the reality is that everyone should think about it. So before we dig into the content of the conversation, y'all know we love a good definition around here. Make sure that we have a working definition that everyone can align on, at least for the purposes of this episode. So your brand is the intentional way you present yourself to the world. It's the story you tell about who you are, what you stand for, and the value you bring. It's crafted. It shows up in your messaging, your visual identity, your tone, and a whole bunch of other things. I would even say, even the clothes that you wear, it can show up in that way too. In other words, the brand is what you say about yourself. Another word that's very related to it, and it can be hard to not conflate the two, is reputation. Reputation is more about how others perceive you based on their experiences, word of mouth, and what you consistently deliver over time. It's earned, not designed, and it may or may not align with the brand that you've tried to build. In other words, reputation is what others say about you when you're not in the room. So, yeah, definitions. There's a Venn. I'm sure we're going to have to tease those apart over and over again. But yeah, it's always important for me to think about those two differently.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that you disambiguated the two. They are related. They are very
They're
related
very
concepts,
related and they dance
right?
together. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They dance together for sure. I think it's worth mentioning that if your brand is what you tell the world about yourself, right?
Hmm.
And your reputation is how others perceive you. And if we don't take control over our brand and what we tell the world, others will shape that story for us.
Right. Because whether you're conscious of it or not, you actually are telling people what your brand is every day, whether, like I said, whether you're trying to or not. I'll start with the thing that I just said earlier, the clothes that you wear. That might actually be the first way that I showed up as a brand in general in the workplace, right? Thinking through like, how are you presenting yourself? Are what it was this phrase years ago, and dress for the job that you want, not the one that you have. There was a phrase for a while there, ways
Mhm.
back, but that's one way that you're conveying your brand consciously or subconsciously.
Right. And the job I trust for the job that I want, which is just like totally relaxed. I mean, if you're watching the video, I'm wearing a band t-shirt right now.
Hey. And for me, it's sneakers. Whenever I can wear
Mhm.
comfortable shoes. I'm happy as a clam. I am grateful to generations younger than I for making sneakers an acceptable shoe wear and not having to always wear pumps. Like that's lovely. That's a lovely thing for me. But
Right.
why does it matter? Like, besides the fact that you want to be seen in a certain way, it also helps to differentiate you from everybody else that's out there. Because if you're part of an organization of more than three people, people you'll need a way to differentiate yourself from everyone else. You need to a way to be remembered, a way to, for people to think of you. So like that's one really important way that this can help. And I know there's lots of different ways that this can help to shape your career. I know that you've got some good ideas on this one, maybe. I suspect you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Even before I started, I actually sat down and thought about
Mm.
my brand. Going back to what you said about you show up as your brand, whether you realize it or not. Um, I had always been in most, we'll say most of my jobs over the last decade or so. I was always known as the go-to person for information, right?
Mm.
The go-to person for information. And when I realized that, you know, that was part of my brand, I started leaning into it and showed up in those ways. I put those micro signals out in the world of, for example, after meetings, I would send out the minutes, all the decisions that were made, what the next steps were, who the key players were, who to go to for all the answers to all of your questions about this meeting. And
Yeah.
I was the collator and curator of information, and that
Yeah.
was my brand.
I love that because it gives an example of how your reputation can be the foundation for developing a brand and identifying what your brand could be. You don't have to always lean into your reputation, but in your case, it's worked out.
Right. 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 It's your reputation is it can be a starting point or a variable or an input to
Mm,
what your brand ends up being.
yeah. And for me, I think that in some when you're sharing your example, I was like, oh, I've had moments where I know that I become that person and I'm like, how do I combat
Right.
it?
Like right.
Because like, just whatever, I think it's occupational hazard. And in some cases it really helps you with your work. But like being the person that everyone talks to, throughout the day can be really useful in helping to build your influence because they trust you and you can get a lot of interesting things from casual conversations. But I still remember a moment in time where like it was stopping me from being able to do my job. So I needed to change my reputation of being the person that people talk to when they're getting their coffee. I actually literally had to change my desk twice, um, to make it stop. But there's sometimes you want to combat it, sometimes you want to lean into it.
Yeah. When you mentioned that, what came to mind was like being the fixer, right? Like
Yeah,
it's it's good in some ways, but there's a balance to it, right?
yeah,
Like you don't want that to become your whole brand, your whole identity.
right,
And you do want to combat you might want to combat it at some points, right?
yeah.
Like you don't want to, if people will take advantage of what your brand is or what your reputation is, think about how to steer away from that.
Or it doesn't serve your long-term career goals, right? It might be something that you're totally fine with, but it traps you at a certain level of the company or it traps you into a particular career path or it like there's a lot of reasons that, you might want to like just constantly monitor it because I think that we've had this conversation before in other forums, but like you've once said like your brand isn't static. It's not like you're not you're luckily you're not a corporation who needs to worry about all the things that come with a rebrand. Right, changing your packaging, changing your signage, like you can just change it and know it's because it's yours. It's yours and you get to define it. And it's probably not in anything too concrete. It might be in your LinkedIn bio, which is where I started my brand years and years ago. My company's called People Process Things, but where that started as it was my LinkedIn tagline for a really long time. Like, because, at that point, the taglines were shorter or whatever. I don't remember which field I used. LinkedIn always confuses me, but that's where I used it. I dropped it in there and, and then people would start actually like, they'll acknowledge that they saw it. They're like, oh my gosh, like, oh, you're doing that because you saw the cause you're the people process things person. I'm like, I've never said that out loud at work, but you noticed that. Cool. Okay. Brand and reality are aligned. Reputation and brand are aligning. Okay, cool, cool. You get to play with things. You get to play with things and see how it works.
Right. Yeah. It's an important point that your brand is an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's not static. It's
Mm-mm.
not etched in stone. It's not, you're a human being. As a human being, we evolve, we
Right.
change. So why can't your brand?
Why can't your brand? And like, I think that one of my favorite places to test out my brand and see how it is and isn't working for me is at mixers, professional or otherwise. There's usually the question that comes up that like, oh, like I phrase it as how do you spend the days of your week? But the way the question usually comes to me is like, oh, so tell me about your work.
What do
Or
you do?
who do you work for? What's your, like, what's your craft? What's your, like, they dig
What's
into
your
it
job
and
title?
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, different scenarios, same question, different flavors of it. But what I'm not great at networking. I know we had a recent episode on networking, which I think is really important because we all need to do that. But it's highly encouraged in my mind. Need is me too strong, but the fact is, in those scenarios, even at the Thanksgiving dinner table or wherever you find yourself, the question comes up. You try it out, say the thing, see how people react. What is their reaction to it? How are they responding to it? Did that land? Did that not land? Next conversation, try a tweak. I mean, that again, that's the great part of a networking event. You're moving person to person to person to person. Try a different flavor, try a different variation and see how it hits.
I like that you're doing the micro experiments all in one event.
In one event.
Yeah.
In one event. I mean, goodness gracious, I've learned into networking. So, but it's important. And you see how this turn of phrase works. And you're like, oh, that worked. And then you see how the people react to it throughout the conversation. Like, did that land and did that follow through? Did they ask me a question about what I do? Like, or like, I like ask me to use my expertise. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Or not. So
Right. Yeah, you know, using people process things as the example, like that then becomes your tagline, your shorthand,
it's my
right?
shorthand.
It's your shorthand.
It's my
Like
shorthand.
one of mine is the get stuff done or right.
I've got a sticker for that. If y'all run into me in the real world, I can give you one of my um I get stuff done stickers. So anyway, but Amanda's a get stuff doneer. I mean, and that's a great way to like just try it. Try out the language. Try out the language. And I love afterwards like a practice that I don't do it consistently, but like from time to time I'll do like a brainstorming session or a brain dumping session of like the things and or even have like a little notebook where I write down keywords and just leave it. Just leave it.
Mhm.
And then I come back to it later. I'm like, okay, what are the keywords I wrote down? I'm like, oh, okay. I see a pattern. Let's use
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Same. A lot of journaling, a lot of brain dumping. And if there's nothing to dump, then I read for inspiration.
I like that. What do you
Yeah.
what do you like to read when you're trying to do things like that? Do you have any ideas? Anything jump out or no?
No, nothing long form really.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of unfortunately, it's a lot of scrolling.
Okay.
Um
Don't say
on
unfortunately. I love doom scrolling. It's
I
not always
know.
healthy for me, but I love it.
I know. It's not healthy. I'm trying to do less of it, but yeah, a lot of my inspiration comes from scrolling. It comes from, either Instagram or Instagram threads or Blue Sky or,
Yeah.
Substack these days. And you just see certain words sometimes and you're like, "Ooh, my brain's going
Yeah.
to latch onto that." And like I'm reacting to it. Like, will others
Love
react to
that.
this the same way?
Yeah. I love that. And I think that that's And in my scenario, I'm probably pulling out my notebook that's always in my handbag and I'll write down the word. So that goes into my mind, my brain dump. I love that. I love it. Another thing that we've talked about on another episode was like self-assessments. Like the one that comes to mind for me in this context is, yes, there are the ones like StrengthsFinder, et cetera, DISC and so on, like, which can help with this. But the one that stands out for me most when it comes to my personal brand was, I think it's a Fascinator Advantage, and I cannot remember the woman's name. And I'm not suggesting y'all do this, but go purchase it. If you do want to, great. If not, that's fine too. But I learned about it at a conference, right? And I came home from the conference and I was sharing with everyone that I had this assessment. And these are the three things that showed up for me. And the one that felt the most odd for me was avant-garde. And I was like, ugh, I'm like, I am the most normcore person when it comes to like clothing and notebooks and whatever. Like, I do not think of myself as avant-garde, because when I think of avant-garde, I think of avant-garde fashion, avant-garde art, right? But everyone, when I would say that, like tell them the three of them, like, oh my God, avant-garde is so you. I'm like,
Yeah, you're like, please explain.
what world are you all in? Right. Like, and like that was with them not even reading the definition of avant-garde. Then I would read the word avant-garde in the context of this particular framework. And it was like, oh, thinks about things differently, doesn't always have to go the prescribed path, et cetera. I'm like, okay, in that context, I'm avant-garde. But what that's done for me is that like everyone had had just a strong opposite reaction to the word that I did. I was like, oh, that must be true to them, because it was all about how the world sees you, this particular assessment. I was like, I keep on using that as a touchstone when I think of things in work. I'm like, oh, they think I'm avant-garde. Okay. I can't fight this because like it's kind of part of who I am. How do I
It's
integrate
become
this?
part of your reputation.
But it is my reputation, whether I want to or not. I don't know where it came from, but it's living, breathing. So it's still there today. How do I integrate that, and how do I take advantage of that? So
Yeah, avant-garde is all about context, as you have realized. And it's interesting that, you know, what came to your mind when hearing or reading the word avant-garde was art and fashion.
yeah,
And you say it to someone else and they're like, oh no, like you as a person are avant-garde. And you're like, wait, really?
really, right, exactly. I had a big old really on that one, and I've come to learn, like I said, I can't fight it. It's clearly in my bones. So how do I leverage it? How do I
Yeah.
leverage it? Which
You
is another, tool tip that's worked for I think both of us in our careers, is like when you're not sure about, what you want your brand to be, the thing that you put out there, the way that you show up at work consciously, right? Versus, unconsciously. Um, Ask a trusted friend, like, hey, what are three words that come to mind when you think of me? Or, hey, like I tell them I'm trying to figure out what my personal brand is at work. What are your thoughts on that? Like, when you think of me, what do you think of? Which is, again, that bridge between reputation and brand. But it's best when those two things are support one another.
right, right. Crowdsource some opinions.
Crowdsource some opinions. And I know you love a good mind map too, and figuring some of this stuff out.
Oh yeah. I mean, just taking the brain dump and figuring out what the patterns are, figuring out if, what concepts are related
Yeah.
and, busting out the dictionary sometimes or
Oh,
the
I love a
thesaurus.
thesaurus. I love a thesaurus. It's so much fun staring at words, staring at
Right.
words.
Yeah, and it's one of those, again, inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just need to go out into the world and get some inspiration elsewhere, because if you're just by yourself in your brain, like you're limited to only the patterns and thoughts that you're thinking of, as
Yeah. And
opposed to avant-garde. What?
yeah. And it can come from the most unexpected places. Like one of my, I'm going to call it hobbies. I don't know. One of my habits, maybe is a better way to say it, is I have a photo album on my phone that's called Things That Make Me Go, right? And when something just catches my eye and just like, and even if I don't know what it's making me think, but it's like I can feel it feeding something in me, I take a picture of it, right? It's a Subway ad. It's a, like it's just like a pattern I see on a wall. It's a going to a museum, and there you may or may not take photos depending on the museum, but seeing what, like, because you can get these ideas from just about anywhere, right?
Right. It's your whether or not it's an actual Pinterest board or not, it's your mental Pinterest board.
I hadn't thought about Pinterest, but that's it. That's it. I mean, I love little collections of things. I like my lit and this could help somebody. Like the latest my one of my latest hobbies is junk journaling. I don't know if I do it the right way or the wrong way. I may have mentioned it before, but like I just the things that I pick up along the way throughout the day that just make me go, wind up in a journal. I paste them down, start a new page, add it to an existing page. I don't know. But like it's a way for me to, just think about like what resonates, and what resonates is often um can inspire what my professional brand is.
Oh, is that called junk journaling? I thought that was just called journaling because that's how I journal now.
Oh, like I guess I don't know. There's always a new name for an old thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, junk journaling is really I like I've never gone to. I've seen workshops advertised. I've never been to one. So and I am God knows if I'm doing it right. But yeah, I just like it's collaging. It's collaging, which
Yeah.
was actually one of my favorite activities when I was in high school art. High school art. I loved a good collage.
It's collaging your personal brand.
It is. It is. It is. So, I think that, if I had advice for folks, like start writing down the words that you think of when you think of yourself, right? Play with phrasing, that see how that tagline works within various introductions, whether you're meeting a new colleague or like you're in that mixer that I was talking about or whatever it might be. And then, just keep on reflecting, keep on evolving. So,
Yeah.
any thoughts from you? Any other things that come to mind? I think we hit a lot of good topics for everyone.
I think so too. And I think it's important to remember that your personal brand is personal. Like it's you.
Personal. It's yours. It's yours, and you get to do with it whatever you want, whenever you want to. Amanda, thank you for a lovely conversation. This was a really good one. And I hope that our listeners got something really good out of it, and you join me next time when we cover another topic on the messy middle.
Bye.
Thanks for taking time with us in the messy middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.